The 12th of September, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's hand trembled as he wrapped his fingers around the pistol grip. The same hand that had saved Bumpy Johnson's life 6 times. The same hand that had shaken Bumpy's when they swore brotherhood 5 years ago. Tonight, that hand would pull the trigger. $50,000. That was the price the 5 families put on Bumpy's head. And Sam, the man Bumpy trusted more than his own shadow, had taken the contract. But what happened when Sam squeezed that trigger changed everything. Not just for Bumpy, not just for Harlem, for the entire structure of American organized crime. Because what nobody knew, what would only come to light decades later, was this. Bumpy Johnson had been expecting this betrayal for 3 weeks. To understand why the 12th of September, 1958 became the night that rewrote crime history, you need to understand what Harlem looked like in the late 50s. This wasn't just territory. This was an empire worth millions, built on numbers, respect, and something the Italian families could never understand. Genuine loyalty. Bumpy Johnson wasn't just another gangster. He was Harlem's protector. When landlords tried to evict black families, Bumpy made the evictions stop. When corrupt cops shook down local businesses, Bumpy made phone calls that ended careers. When Italian crews tried to muscle into the neighborhood, they left in ambulances. By 1958, the 5 families had tried everything to crack Harlem. Force didn't work. Money didn't work. Political pressure didn't work. Bumpy had built something unbreakable. An organization based on respect rather than fear. That is when Frank Costello, the most powerful mob boss in New York, came up with a different strategy. You can't break loyalty from the outside. You have to corrupt it from within. Big Sam Foster had been Bumpy's bodyguard since 1953, 6 foot. 4, 260 pounds of muscle and devotion. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy twice. He'd been there when Bumpy's mother died. He'd stood beside Bumpy through wars with Dutch Schultz's old crew, through police raids, through everything. But Sam had a weakness. His daughter, Kesha Foster, 7 years old, had been fighting tuberculosis for 8 months. The medical bills were crushing Sam's family. Even with Bumpy's help, even with the steady paycheck, it wasn't enough. Every night, Sam watched his little girl struggle to breathe. Every morning, he wondered if it would be her last. That is when Tony Marone found him. The 20th of August, 1958, 3 weeks before the shooting. Sam was leaving his apartment on 132nd Street when a black Cadillac pulled up. Tony Marone stepped out, smiling like a life insurance salesman who actually cared about your life. Sam, right? I heard a lot about you. All good things. Sam's hand moved toward his waistband. Who is asking? A friend. Someone who wants to help you save your daughter's life. The briefcase Tony opened contained $50,000 in neat stacks. Enough to pay every medical bill. Enough to send Kesha to the best doctors in Switzerland. Enough to give her a chance. What is the catch? Sam asked, though he already knew. 1 bullet, 1 moment. The 12th of September, Lenox Lounge. Bumpy will be there like he always is on Friday nights. You wait until the room is crowded. Witnesses everywhere. 1 shot to the back of the head. Then you disappear. We have new identities waiting. New lives. Sam stared at the money. His daughter's salvation, his best friend's death. And if I say no, Tony's smile faded, then you watch your little girl die slowly in that charity ward hospital. And you keep working for a man whose number is already up. Because Bumpy Johnson is going to die, Sam. The only question is whether your daughter lives. What Big Sam didn't know was that before he even got into that Cadillac, Bumpy Johnson already knew about the approach. Jerome, a parking attendant nobody ever noticed, had seen Tony's car outside Sam's building. Jerome had written down the license plate. 2 hours later, Jerome was in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise. Tony Marone's car, Jerome said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. Parked outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed 5 minutes, got out. Bumpy looked at the paper, then at Jerome. He pulled out $500 and handed it over. You didn't see anything. You weren't there. Understand? After Jerome left, Bumpy sat alone for 2 hours thinking, planning. Understanding that the moment he'd been dreading had finally arrived. Sam was family. But family doesn't always mean loyalty. Sometimes it means weakness. Bumpy could have killed Sam right then. One phone call and Sam would disappear into the East River. But that would have solved nothing. The families would just find another weakness, another Sam, another way to get close. Number Bumpy needed something bigger. Something that would send a message so loud, so clear, that nobody would ever try this again. He called Victor, a gunsmith in Brooklyn who'd been modifying weapons for Bumpy for 15 years. "I need you to make me a gun that doesn't work," Bumpy said. "You want a broken gun?" "I want a gun that looks perfect, feels perfect. But when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. Complete misfire." "Can you do it?" Victor could. Within 3 days, he delivered a modified .38 special that looked identical to Sam's service weapon. Same weight, same feel, completely inoperable. The hardest part was the swap. Bumpy needed to replace Sam's real gun with the dummy without Sam noticing. On the 8th of September, 4 days before the hit, Bumpy sent Sam on an errand to the Bronx. "I need you to pick up an envelope from a contact. Don't come back without it." While Sam was gone, Bumpy and Illinois Gordon entered Sam's apartment. They found Sam's gun exactly where Bumpy knew it would be, in a shoebox under the bed. They swapped it with Victor's dummy. Sam would never know the difference. The 12th of September, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Lenox Lounge. The club was packed. 300 people. Musicians, hustlers, politicians, businessmen. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, cognac, and conversations that shaped the neighborhood's future. Bumpy sat at his usual corner table, wearing an impeccable gray suit. He was discussing a housing development with 2 city councilmen. His back was turned to the room, vulnerable. Big Sam walked in at 11:30. He'd been drinking. Not enough to be drunk, but enough to steady his nerves. In his jacket pocket was the .38 special he'd carried for 5 years. The gun he thought would make him $50,000 richer. Sam positioned himself near the bar, watching, waiting. At 11:47, he made his move. He walked through the crowd, hand inside his jacket, gripping the pistol. Nobody noticed Sam was always near Bumpy. He was the bodyguard. His presence was normal. Sam came up behind Bumpy's chair, 6 feet away, then 4, then 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it first, but before he could shout a warning, Sam had already aimed and pulled the trigger click. The sound of a firing pin hitting nothing echoed through the suddenly silent room. The jazz band stopped mid. Note conversations died mid-sentence. 300 people turned to look at Big Sam standing there with a useless gun and Bumpy Johnson sitting calmly, not even flinching. Bumpy took a slow sip of his cognac. Then he set the glass down gently and turned around in his chair. He looked at Sam with something more terrifying than anger: disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy said quietly. Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet. In that moment, Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He'd known everything. The approach from Tony Marone, the $50,000, the plan. All of it, and instead of killing Sam, instead of disappearing him into the river, Bumpy had let him walk into this room and pull that trigger. Let him reveal himself to 300 witnesses. Let him destroy his own reputation, his own honor in front of the entire community. Sam's gun clattered to the floor. His legs gave out. He sank to his knees. "I am sorry, Bumpy. God, I am sorry, my daughter." "I know about your daughter," Bumpy interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but it carried through the silent room. "I've known for months. You think I don't take care of my people?" Bumpy reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He dropped it on the table. "Kesha's medical bills, all of them, paid in full this morning. There is also a check for $10,000 for your family, whatever you need." Sam's eyes filled with tears. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to know," Bumpy said. "I needed to know if you'd choose their money over our brotherhood, if you'd choose 50,000 over loyalty." He paused. "Now I know." Bumpy stood up. He wasn't tall, 5'9", but in that moment he seemed 10 feet tall. "You are going to leave Harlem tonight. Take your family and disappear. I don't care where, but if I ever see your face again, there won't be a second chance." Sam nodded through his tears. "And Sam," Bumpy's voice dropped even lower, "when the Italians ask what happened here tonight, You tell them exactly what you saw. You tell them Bumpy Johnson knew. You tell them he has always known. And you tell them if they ever try something like this again, I won't be this merciful. After Sam left, Bumpy turned to face the room. 300 people stared at him in silence. They'd just witnessed something impossible. They'd watched a man try to assassinate Bumpy Johnson, and they'd watched Bumpy turn that assassination into a lesson. Let me make something clear, Bumpy said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. The Italians think they can buy us. They think they can turn us against each other. They think they can take Harlem because we're poor, because we're black, because we don't matter. He picked up his cognac glass. They're wrong. Harlem isn't for sale, and loyalty isn't a commodity. Anyone who thinks they can change that is going to learn what Big Sam just learned. Bumpy raised his glass. To Harlem, and to loyalty that can't be bought. 300 people raised their glasses. To Harlem. Word of that night spread through New York's underworld like wildfire. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore knew the story. Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. He'd let it play out. He'd made a traitor reveal himself in front of 300 witnesses without spilling a drop of blood. The 5 families called an emergency meeting the next day. Frank Costello was furious, not at Bumpy, but at Tony Marone for failing. But Carlo Gambino saw something else. We can't beat this man, Gambino said quietly. Every time we move against him, he has already seen it coming. So what do? Costello demanded action. But Gambino had made his decision. We leave Harlem alone. Trying to take it from him will just cost us more money and more men. It was the first time the 5 families had ever backed down from a territorial dispute. But they had no choice. Bumpy Johnson had proven something that night. He wasn't just a gangster. He was a chess master who saw 10 moves ahead. The story of Big Sam's betrayal became legend in Harlem. People told it for decades, passed it down to their children, their grandchildren. It became more than just a story. It became a lesson about loyalty, about strategy, about what real power looks like. But the most important part of that story, the part that really rewrote crime history, wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the dummy gun. It was what Bumpy did next. 3 days after the incident at Lenox Lounge, Bumpy Johnson did something unprecedented. He called a meeting, not with his crew, not with his lieutenants, with every major black crime figure from Detroit to Miami. What happened to me will happen to all of us, Bumpy told them. The Italians will try to turn our own people against us. They'll find our weaknesses and exploit them. We can fight them individually and lose, or we can stand together and survive. That meeting led to the formation of the first organized black crime syndicate in American history. Not to challenge the Italians directly, but to present a united front, to show that black neighborhoods couldn't be divided and conquered anymore. By 1960, the model Bumpy created had spread to every major city in America. Black crime families working together, protecting their territories, sharing intelligence, refusing to be played against each other. The night Big Sam pulled that trigger changed everything. It showed that loyalty could be tested, that betrayal could be anticipated, that power came from respect, not fear. And it proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It is knowing when someone is going to use one. Bumpy Johnson died 10 years later. Not from a bullet, but from a heart attack. But the network he built, the lessons he taught, the respect he commanded that lived on. The moment Big Sam pulled that trigger was supposed to end Bumpy Johnson's story. Instead, it became the beginning of something bigger. Something that changed how organized crime worked in America forever. Sometimes history's most important moments sound like nothing more than a click,